This is Leave Your Mark. I'm Vince Cortese, and today's guest is Dr. Liz Riodan. Dr. Liz is a speaker, author, storyteller who went from being a distinguished breast surgeon to becoming a breast cancer patient. Her story facing chemotherapy, surgeries, and the aftermath of treatment offers profound insights to resilience and advocacy for others on similar journeys. Dr. Liz, thank you for being my guest here today.
Thanks for having me.
Hi there, and welcome. Now it's time for America's favorite podcast, Leave Your Mark, with your host, Vince Cortese.
If it's fly, loose fitted, it's Cortese. If freezing, chubbers in it, it's Cortese.
Leave Your Mark is about inspiring the world, one guest at a time.
Pass the word from Brooklyn to Pittsburgh.
Now, this is exciting because I like the idea of interviewing international guests, and you're in the UK, so
Yeah.
We had to figure this out, the time zone thing, but we got that handled. But you're from England, and your story is all through England, and I want you to share with me. So you're born in Midlands, England, and what is Midland, England's like?
It's I was born in a very rural area, so lots of green trees and fields around. I had to drive half an hour to get to the nearest cinema or shop. There was a lot of time spent playing outside, walking the dog, swimming, running, very, very active.
That's nice. I like that country atmosphere that'll keep you happy. All right, so your mom, Isabel, was a nurse, and
that's right.
Keith was a doctor. So based on your category of career, I'm assuming that they had a very strong influence on you.
They tried to tell me don't do medicine. I think a lot of doctors get into it and think it's not a good career, but I was fascinated by the human body, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I knew I wanted to be a surgeon from about the age of 7.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, were they aware of that?
Yeah, they knew, and they encouraged it. They were so supportive.
So
I was just fascinated by the human body. They fed into that completely.
Okay, so they understand the motive there then. Now, you're an older sister. You're a brother, Nicholas.
I am.
What's that like being a big sister?
Oh, we hated each other. As kids, we fought all the time. We didn't get on. And then when I went to university, we suddenly grew up. And my brother went to the same university as me, and now we're really, really close.
No, were you at the university at the same time as well?
We were. He was 2 years behind me, and it was lovely. But I think most brothers and sisters don't get on with their kids. You know, they're jealous. They want this. You've got more friends than they have. It's normal.
Okay. Now, so you mentioned that your childhood was like out in the fields playing with the dogs and enjoying the environment. You and your brother get along. So you're at high school, at Coventry High School, and you're participating in swimming, and you play the piano and the flute, and you enjoy reading. So these are all cornerstones of someone who's going to be a surgeon later on in life.
They are, but I was a classical geek. I was bullied at school. I didn't kiss a boy until I was 20. I was that nerd who spent all their time in the library and the music room. Very, very different to who I am now.
It serves you well, though. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting when we're young how it shapes what we become later on. Now, you go from you go from Coventry High School to Cardiff, Wales to university, and your education towards being a surgeon begins, and this is about 2 decades. So share with me what happens in Cardiff and beyond.
So in the UK, we have 5 years of medical school. We don't need to do a degree first, and it was full on lectures all day. I drank an awful lot. I ran our student bar. I loved seeing patients and watching operations, and I just knew it was what I wanted to do, but it was really, really hard work. When you finish your 5 years of med schools, I would have been 23. Everyone does 2 years of basic training in medicine and surgery just to get a feel for the wards. And after that, I then started doing 3 years of surgical training, like being a junior attending, I guess. And that's when you realize how hard it is when you lose a patient. When someone dies and you don't know what you're doing, it's really, really, really hard. And then I had to take a pause in my training to do another doctorate degree, because at the time you had to have points on your CV, your curriculum vitae, and you needed further research. So I took 4 years out in a lab looking at slides of thyroid cancer just so I could carry on training to be a surgeon.
Hi, everyone. This is Vince. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I just want to take a moment to let you know I've started a coaching course called Invincible Coaching. For those of you interested in monetizing your expertise online, check in the description below for the link to book a call with me. Now, back to the episode. Now, you go through this whole period of time from 23 to age 38.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're officially a doctor after all of the training and schooling and everything that's going on. And you come to a fork in the road very shortly after being a doctor that you become a cancer patient yourself. Now,
That's right.
it's kind of interesting. How does the situation with your health progress to the point that you're doing diagnoses on patients and you turn the diagnosis on yourself? And do you know it before somebody officially tells you there's a scan? And then also, when you know it, what was going through your head?
Wow. So I was a breast consultant surgeon. I think you guys call that residence. And I never checked my breasts. I never thought I'd get breast cancer. I think, like most people listening, we don't check ourselves regularly. I'd had a couple of breast cysts and I just saw another lump and I thought it was a cyst, a little ball of fluid. It's nothing to worry about. And I had a mammogram and that was normal. And then I had an ultrasound scan and I looked at the screen and I saw a cancer. And because I treat breast cancer patients, the second I saw that lump on the screen, I knew I was 40, I was young, I'd need chemotherapy, I'd need to have my breast removed. I had a good idea what my chance of being alive in 10 years was because it's my job to know all this information. And I was in this weird world of denial. This can't be happening. I am terrified. And I have no idea what it's like to be a breast cancer patient. I thought I was the expert, and I realized just how little I knew about how hard it was to go through things like chemo.
This is, I mean, the whole idea of disbelief. So you knew what you had to do. Now, did you take heed and do this right away, or was this something that you were in denial with, or like, did you take immediate action?
Yeah. So in the UK, we're very, very lucky. Once you are diagnosed with breast cancer, we have to treat you within 4 weeks. And although I was in denial it was happening, you go through the motions. So it was really hard for my surgeon to treat me because she was a friend and a mentor, and it is very, very hard looking after colleagues. So we had to stop being friends so she could operate on me. I had 5 months of chemotherapy up front to shrink the tumor down, and that worked. And then I had a mastectomy and I had an implant reconstruction. But sadly, some of my cancer wasn't seen on the scans. And I actually had 13 centimeters of cancer left, and it had spread to 3 of my lymph nodes. So I had more radiotherapy and I had hormone blocking treatment and an instant menopause. I was made infertile. I could no longer have children. There's an awful lot that goes on with a cancer diagnosis. It's not just about a scar.
Now, yours being, I mean, the transition of your mindset is very difficult to comprehend. So I want you to walk me through your thoughts. Now, you did a bit, but it's like, it's kind of like the coach and the player, you know, were you, as a patient, were you coachable, so to speak? You know, because now your trust lying in yourself is a different line of thought. You know, it's like you're trusting your education and your experience in one decision-making setup, and here this is emotional and this is extremely personal. So
I think doctors generally make terrible patients. We are used to being in control and making the decisions and deciding what's happening. And suddenly I'm the one everything is happening to. I have no real control. I have to go through chemotherapy. I have to have surgery. I wanted to tell my surgeon where to put the scar and what drains to use and what stitches to use. And they found it difficult to treat me as a patient because I'm a consultant. I'm an expert. Do we need to tell you what it's like to have an operation, or do we assume you know? It's this really weird power dynamic. And I was really, really ill during chemo and I didn't ask for help because I thought I'm a doctor. I meant to know how to treat myself. I don't want to look stupid by saying, actually, I've not been to the toilet for 10 days. I've got bleeding piles. I'm in agony. Can you help? I thought I should know how to treat this. And it's very, very hard taking on the patient role. But I think for me, it was grieving with a loss. I lost my breast, my ovaries, my sex life, my ability to flirt. I was made infertile. There was a risk I could lose my job. I didn't know who I was. I've spent 20 years training to operate. And suddenly, for the next 18 months, I was just a woman going to the hospital, having stuff done to her. And I knew what would happen if the cancer came back, because I've looked after women who've died, and it was really hard to block those. Most women survive and have a good prognosis. There are those who are unlucky. I know that all I have to give them is the best of evidence-based medicine. There is nothing else. There's no supplement or infusion or light wave therapy. I'm writing a book about all the alternative therapies that don't work. We did everything we could, but science can't beat bad biology. It's just chance. It's unlucky. We cannot predict who it's going to happen to. And I know, I've had breast cancer 3 times now. All I can do is my best. I can eat well. I can exercise. I can look after my body. It might still come back, but that's out of my control. And trying to let that go and say, this has happened to me. I don't need to spend money in clinics in Mexico because it doesn't work. I've had the best medical treatment, and now it's up to chance. But that is quite hard to get your head around.
It's definitely a different emotion for sure. Now, what I want to ask you is how is your health now? What is your current situation?
So my cancer came back the first time in 2019, and side effects of surgery meant I had to retire. I lost my job, and I had another recurrence on my chest wall last summer. And I'm now on lifelong treatment for that. I get injections in my bum every month, and I'm on a mild dose of chemo to stop it coming back as incurable disease. But at the moment, I'm okay. I've had to find new ways to fill the days and find another way to help people. And that's been tough.
Now, you've been extremely versatile with your online presence and your message. So you're an incredible advocate for this situation and sharing both sides of it. So I guess, how would you say you're different from before this to after this?
I think I had no idea what it was like to be a patient and to realize that cancer is a diagnosis for life. And there are so many things that change. And I realized when I was diagnosed, there is so much misinformation out there, and women are terrified asking questions online and they don't know where to get the answers to. And I realized that by sharing my own experiences as a doctor and a patient, I can make it all a lot less scary. And by talking and writing and podcasting, it's another way for me to help people. And I'd actually say I'm happier after a cancer diagnosis, despite the fact that I've lost my job, I've lost my income, I don't get paid for this, I don't have a status, but I'm a more well-rounded person. I've got time. I volunteer at a hedgehog shelter. I do stuff for charity. I read. I'm a much more nurtured person, and I look after myself better.
I think those are all ingredients to better health. Because my experience from going through cancer was when my mindset was in a better place, everything just seemed to go my way. And it sounds like the hardest part I think a cancer patient goes through is the loss of identity. And I can't imagine what that felt like for you at 38 years of age or 40 years of age when you find out you have cancer and all of this is going to be taken away from you. The question is,
it's heartbreaking.
Who am I now? Yeah,
That's it.
It's just like there's a different experience altogether, and that I think cancer patients experience that way. Have you ever thought of being a podcaster? Click the link in the description to watch a free mini course to start your podcast on YouTube today. Now, back to the episode. Now, what I want to touch on is you're doing these things, and share with me some of the stuff that you're doing on your YouTube channel and how you're drawing attention, because you just shared a whole bunch there with not having your job anymore and not being paid for it. And it's like a lot had happened from what we left off from you going through treatment and being a patient. So where are we at with that now?
So it all started when I was having chemotherapy back in 2015, and my husband suggested, why don't you start a blog? And at the time, there weren't many, and a lot of them were quite scary, like poison/burn. And I just started writing. And off the back of my writing, I had doctors and nurses following me on Twitter saying, thank you for explaining. I didn't realize what it was like for my patients. And that led to me being asked to do a TEDx talk in Stuttgart, talking about my experiences, which led to more talks. And I've talked from groups of 7-year-old boys to the CEOs of private health insurance companies, just trying to use my experiences to say it's the little things that can make a huge difference to cancer care. When I was diagnosed, Vince, I bought 10 books written by cancer patients. I'm an expert, but I didn't know what it was like to be a patient. And I was shocked at the questions people were asking in forums, like, is it safe to have sex during chemo? Because I'm scared my husband's hair is going to fall out. So I thought, well, I can use my knowledge to write a book. And that book led to people asking me online, can you explain this for me? And I thought, well, okay, I can do a video on that. And now I kind of see myself as bridging that gap between what your doctor tells you and what you're looking for online. It's evidence-based. You can trust me. I don't make it scary. And that's what I'm doing on my YouTube channel and with my podcast, just answering people's questions. But it's a way of fulfilling me. It's a way that I can carry on, help people, even though I'm no longer a surgeon.
This is an incredible story. Now, I would like for you to share with me how you would like to be remembered. How would you like to leave your mark?
There's a great book by a guy called Andy Coates called Shine that talks about what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? And do you want them to say they never left work until 10 o'clock, I'm always doing emails at midnight? Or do you want to be remembered as a surgeon? Or do you want to be remembered as a wife and a friend and an aunt? And I think I'd like to be remembered by someone saying she loved and she was loved. Because it's the memories and the connections that are actually really what matter. Cancer kind of strips away the material world. And yes, it's nice to have shoes and handbags, but actually it's the friends I hadn't seen for years who reached out to give me a hug. It's my husband, who's a surgeon as well, who stood by me through treatment. That is what's really important to me at the end of the day.
You can't put a price on any of that.
You can't.
I really
and you don't appreciate it until you come close to losing it, I think.
I think you're right. It's what we're intended as humans to go through, all those layers of different emotions, and to feel like we've given all of ourselves in return.
And I think, so it was really hard during cancer for me to let myself be loved. I wanted to shut everyone out from the misery I was feeling. I'm not going to let you in. I'm going to go through this by myself. And my husband had to say, for God's sake, let me give you a hug. It's okay to cry. And that's really hard when you're vulnerable, to be that exposed. And I've learned to do it a bit online as well. If all people see is this amazing woman doing all these amazing things and they're going through chemo, they hate me because they can't do that. So I have to say, I get days when I just cry. And when it's Mother's Day and I see these mums with their kids and I'm still grieving for the child I never had, I think we need to be real and show people what it's really like.
Very well said. Dr. Liz, what an incredible story. You keep fighting. You keep fighting.
I will.
I like it. I like your spirit. So I want to appreciate you for being on my show. So real quickly, tell me the links where we can find more of your work.
So I'm Dr. Liz O'Riordan on YouTube. My website is liz.o'riordan.uk, and that's got links to all my books, podcasts, and social media channels.
Okay, thanks again.
You just left your mark. Thanks for listening. Listen to more episodes on demand. Just click Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese. If you enjoyed this episode, you will love the next episode. Click the link on the screen next to me. Have a blessed day.